Hello fellow gamers, I'm Christopher Christman of Retro Game Network, and coming up next, a look at last week's retro video game news on the RGN Files for the week ending Saturday, June 23rd, 2018. In the RGN Files this week, the World Health Organization has recently revised their disease classification manual, adding video game addiction as an official, diagnosable, and thus treatable mental disorder. The news was announced this past Monday and will now give mental health professionals a basis for initializing treatments for the disorder, as well as begin the process of identifying potential risks for the addiction. Diagnosis would apply to video game players that have isolated or distanced themselves from their family and friends, or to those that have shown reduced academic success over the course of a 12-month period. Medical professionals are split on the decision to officially classify video game addiction as a disease. Some healthcare providers claim that the disorder is genuine on its own, while many feel that the video game addiction is caused by other situations going on in the individual's personal life. While healthcare professionals believe that the total number of affected patients that could be classified with the disorder may be as low as much less than 1% of the population, the WHO feels that the total number of people that could be diagnosed with gaming disorder could be as high as 3% of the world's population. A group of video game programmers from Spain have announced an independently created remastering to the Sega Master System title, Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Originally classified as Sega's answer to Mario by Computer and Video Games magazine during its original release, the duo is currently working on breathing some fresh and modern elements to the classic game by remaking it for modern platforms. Developing the update are Hector Toro, a professional animator and illustrator, and Jose Sanz, an independent video game developer and pixel artist who has also worked on other titles such as Value Boy in the past. The upgraded edition is getting completely remade from the very beginning, which includes new graphic sprites and artwork for all of the levels of the game, including Alex Kidd himself, alongside of the several enemies and bosses. The game will also feature updated animation, music, and sound effects. Because this is a story that is very early in the stages of development, there is currently no information on exactly which platforms that the game would be offered on upon completion, or whether the final product would be made available for either consoles and/or computers. It is also unknown how the game would be distributed when it is ready for play, or if any costs would be involved. In other Sega-related news this week, Pound Technology has recently released a brand new cable that would allow Dreamcast console owners a new way of connecting their systems to modern television sets. The new HD link cable for Dreamcast takes advantage of the built-in VGA capabilities of the system, meanwhile upconverting the video output to a modern high-definition TV. While most current television sets offer VGA inputs as a standard option, this feature has been slowly getting removed from TV sets due to the current HDMI standard. The video quality produced by the cable is based on what the original games produced. Resolution also depends on the game that you're playing and how well your television set can display the image. Because the cable takes advantage of the VGA capabilities of the Dreamcast itself, games that were released for the system that were incompatible with VGA mode, such as the various games from the King of Fighters and ECW franchises, will still not be compatible with the new device. Because the item is still considered to be a new product, Amazon, who are the official distributors of the device, will not permit shipping outside of the United States until a later date. The Pound Technology HD link cable for Dreamcast retails for just under $30. Fast food restaurant chain Wendy's is no stranger when it comes to humorous social media posts, and the company has now gone even further, this time with a retro video game twist. It has happened to everyone at one point or another when you go to visit a webpage on the internet, only to mistype it and be given the infamous 404 error message. Wendy's has recently customized their own 404 error page by allowing visitors to play a customized version of the classic video game Burger Time. The original game was released by Data East back in 1982, with ports being made for most video game consoles and computers of the era. Instead of playing the part of Peter Pepper this time around, you play the part of Wendy herself. The game is played by using a computer mouse clicking on arrow keys that appear on the screen. Meanwhile, mobile users can play the game by tapping on the arrows on your display. In addition, instead of just serving up multiple burgers like in the original title, you actually build a complete meal, complete with a cheeseburger, fries, chicken nuggets, and soft drink. When the items are being built, the final products actually land on a red tray, similar to the ones that are used at the restaurant itself. To play the game, simply visit Wendy's official website and mistype an internet URL to direct you to the 404 error page. A new book is currently in the works that showcases a very specific group in the world of retro video games. Written by Kieran Hawken, 8-Bit on a Budget, the best budget games of the 80s, is dedicated to gamers that took advantage of legacy computer systems from the era that used the audio cassette medium for distribution and storage. Many classic computers of the time, including the Commodore 64, Atari 8-Bit line, ZX Spectrum, BBC Micro, among others, used the cassette tape format as an inexpensive way to distribute software. The full-color hardback book contains over 200 pages of information about such video games, offering reviews, box art, and screenshots. It also includes interviews from the people that created these budget games, including David Jones, Rich Stevenson, and Sean McClure. Other contributors to the publication include modern-day personalities such as Kim Justice, Guru Larry, and the Nostalgia Nerd. The book is being crowdfunded via Unbound, with digital copies being offered for a pledge of $15, with hard copies of the book being offered for as little as $30. Other purchase options include getting a copy of the book autographed by the author, as well as receiving a legacy game on cassette tape. The campaign, as to date, currently has a total of 55 supporters. Independent game developer Revival Studios has released a brand new game for the Vectrex video game console. The title, called Rush Hour, is a logic puzzle game in which the concept has been done before on other systems. In the game, you are trying to exit a parking lot where you are trapped by other cars and need to figure out how to get your own car out. You have to move the other cars in a specific order in order to get to your own vehicle over the course of a total of 16 different levels. The game is currently being offered in 2 different configurations. A standard edition gets you the game cartridge, box, and manual, while a collector's edition, which is limited to 50 copies, includes a different box that comes to us in a flavor similar to the original Vectrex games of the 1980s. The limited edition has a serial number printed on the inside top flap and also includes a color overlay for the Vectrex screen. The standard edition sells for just over $46, while the collector's edition sells for just over $81. In addition, Revival Studios has also made available a variety of demonstration programs that have been produced by the company over the past decade and a half. These demonstrations are available at no cost and can be used by means of a Vectrex emulator. In other independent news this week, French video game developer Orionsoft has recently released a brand new port of one of their previous creations. Escape 2042: The Truth Defenders was originally published for the Sega Dreamcast platform last year, with other ports being made for the Sega Genesis and Nintendo Game Boy, as well as for personal computers. The newest port of the game is now available for the Atari ST computer platform. In Escape 2042, you play the part of Sean, a computer engineer and member of the Truth Defenders Coalition. You have recently been sent to a maximum security prison in an effort to stop you from informing the public about a socialist government and the progressive dictatorship group. You must avoid security cameras and collect grenades in order to get rid of your enemies, as well as exercise your memory by hacking computer networks in the prison in order to unlock the doors. The game can be run via means of an emulator. However, playing the game on actual equipment will require an Atari STE computer with 1 megabyte of RAM for floppy disk use or 2 megabytes of RAM for hard drive installations. You will also need a joystick in order to play the game. The title is available for purchase for the cost of just under $6 for a digital download. In addition, physical copies of the game will also be released in upcoming months and should sell for just around $46.50. Coming up next, a personal viewpoint on one of this week's featured stories with our Wimho, well, in my humble opinion, commentary. It seems that every few months, video games in general make national headlines. Whenever there is a school shooting or another tragedy, it seems that video games always seem to get the bad rep. Last week, the World Health Organization took it a step further by officially classifying video game addiction as a diagnosable and thus treatable disease. This new disorder has had healthcare professionals split on the idea, with some believing that it is in fact an epidemic, while others believe that we need to figure out the underlying reason why people become addicted to video games and not on the action of playing the games themselves. Now, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about my viewpoints on this topic of this brand new gaming disorder, as it's officially called, because this past Saturday, I actually published a 13-paragraph article about exactly how I feel about the WHO's terms with the classification. But we still need 2 questions to be answered in regards to this. Can video games be addicting? And can video games actually ever be used for medicinal purposes? Well, in my humble opinion, the answer to both of these questions is a very strong yes. I can see how using video game technology can be addicting. I have many friends that come home from work each and every day and play video games for hours until they call at night. However, these individuals all have jobs that they're never late at, they take the time to eat normal meals with their families, and they certainly spend time with their friends. Some of these people are also college educated, incidentally. Now, while I can very easily see how video games could be abused based on the routine behavior of the people in my personal circle, many people seem to forget that while there have been just as many studies showing the negatives of video gameplay, there have also been plenty of studies that also show how video games can be used to actually help people as well. Studies have been done since the 1980s, when video games were used as a method of helping people that had suffered brain damage, usually from a car accident. And these studies have shown that they've been able to regain their motor skills by playing a game like Pong. It's an excellent way of getting back their hand-eye coordination. In addition, another study was done back in 2014, and it showed that video games could also be used as a way of curbing cravings for things such as unhealthy food appetites as well as for cigarettes. On a personal experience, my own mother was actually prescribed video games in the early 1990s, and this happened when she was losing her eyesight in one of her eyes due to complications from diabetes. Playing Tetris with her good eye covered forced her bad eye to focus on the gameplay, and in under a year her eyesight had actually returned to a 20/20 vision. Now, I agree with those medical professionals that believe that the act of being addicted to video games is mostly due to something else that's going on in the individual's private life, and that it's not actually an addiction in itself. In some cases, turning to video games just may be a way for somebody to battle depression, or to maybe get away from the real world for an extended period of time. But finding the underlying cause for the patient that turned them on to video games in the first place would be the first step in getting proper treatment. Remember that those that want to escape reality could have easily done so by using other methods, such as reading a lot of books, creating artwork, or even composing music, but you never hear about any of these things being considered an addiction. Now, before I finish this week's commentary, I wish to stress very highly that you should not use my personal opinions as a way of self-diagnosing any disease or condition. If you feel that you may be abusing video games, or if you believe that incorporating video games in your daily life could assist you in some way, speak to your doctor of choice. You may be very surprised what he or she has to say about the topic. And that is my humble opinion. And finally this week, Retro Game Network conducted our second official Twitch stream last Tuesday, which unfortunately was yet another epic fail. After starting the stream, we had a computer crash that caused a delay in the very beginning. And upon restarting the stream, we learned that our settings were still not allowing proper audio to be transmitted. Because we are still unsure of the problem, there will be no official stream this week as we continue to perform some additional testing. These tests will be taking place at random days and times throughout the current week, and we certainly hope to have our next official Twitch stream be ready by next Tuesday night. We apologize for the delay, and we thank you for your continued support. That's it for this week's edition of the RGN Files. For those listening on VGM on FM, please stay tuned. There'll be more music coming up shortly. For complete details of any of this week's stories, visit RetroGameNetwork.com. And don't forget to check us out on social media outlets, on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Retro Game Network, and on Twitter and Twitch at RetroGameNet. For the RGN Files, I'm Christopher Chrisman. This week's news stories provided by the following: Atari Crypt, the Chicago Tribune, the Dreamcast Junkyard, DSO Gaming, 8-Bit Central, Indie Retro News, Revival Studios, Time Magazine, USA Today, Vintage is the New Old. The opinions expressed during our Wim Ho commentary segment are not necessarily those of all contributors or affiliates of Retro Game Network.